everybody to the Single and Stiletto Show. I'm Suzanne Oshima, and I'm a matchmaker and dating coach at Dream Bachelor and Bachelorette, and I'm also the founder of Single and Stilettos. Today we have on our show Lori Bizzoco, and she is the executive editor and founder of Cupid'sPulse.com. And I'm so excited to have her here today because we're talking about a very, very important topic for women in their 30s. And it's the topic of my biological clock is ticking away and I'm dating. So before we jump into that topic, though, Lori, I would love for you to tell our audience a little bit about you.
Sure, absolutely. As Suzanne said, I'm the executive editor of Cupid'sPulse.com. I'm also the mother of two young daughters, 3 and 5, who I both had over the age of 40. I have been married about 7 years, and I actually met my husband on an online dating site, and he proposed after 9 weeks. And prior to that, I spent 15 years in corporate America.
See, ladies, you can have it all. And Lori, I want to ask you one question before we jump into it, because I think it's really, really important for our audience to know this, is at what age did you actually meet your husband and then get married?
Absolutely. I met my husband at 38, married at 39, and had my first daughter at 40. So I did it very quickly. But,
okay.
But I have to say that when I met my husband, before that, I probably was like many of my friends, definitely worried about my biological clock ticking.
Okay, so let's jump into your tips, because I see this a lot as a matchmaker and dating coach, is a lot of women, as they start to approach their late 30s, even mid 30s sometimes, it really depends on the woman. Sometimes I've even had women in their early 30s come to me in panic, but no matter what age, it just depends on the woman. Sometimes she could start to panic that her biological clock is ticking away and she wants to get married and have children. And I will tell you, ladies, if a man could smell that when you're out on a date and as you start dating, it will scare him and it will send him running for the hills. So, Lori, I would love for you, because honestly, you kind of went through this yourself, is to give us your 3 best tips. And I know your first tip is about don't freak out. So tell us more how women can not freak out.
Easier said than done, though, Suzanne, right?
Exactly.
Yes. I mean, I'm just going to share with you my experiences, because I think that's probably most helpful. I did freak out. I was freaking out because everybody around me was freaking out, because we were all, my friends and I were all in our late 30s, in 40s. So, of course, we were freaking out. But here's something interesting. You know, like I said, it's easier said than done. But actually maintaining this calmness, number one, if you're dating, it will help relax you and not scare, as you mentioned, maybe a great man away. And number two, if you have met somebody and you are ready to get married and you're still freaking out, relaxing yourself is much better for conception, you know, just not feeling all that stress and pressure.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to add to that, because I think that's a really, really great point, is about don't freak out, is ladies, when you go out on that first date, don't focus on, and you think that you don't, but I've seen this happen, is don't focus on your biological clock. Focus on the date, focus on getting to know him. And that's all your focus should be through the first 6 to 10 dates, is just focus on getting to know him. Don't think about, oh God, is this the guy that I want to marry? And is this the guy that I want to be the father of my children? Because it's just, a man will smell it. Trust me. Absolutely. They tell me this all the time.
I actually had a really horrible dating experience where a guy did bring this up. He asked me my opinion, like, you know, what's more important, you know, finding the right man, having a child, like, and I don't remember the context of, you know, how he said this, but I was just being very open and honest, and I did not think I was being damaging to his ego. But I have to tell you, he deducted from our conversation that all I cared about was just having a baby and not caring about getting married to the right man. And literally, he walked out of the restaurant. He said he's going to the bathroom, and he left me with the check. Like,
you never told me that story.
I was dumbfounded. I was dumbfounded. And I have to say, it made me very cautious about anything I wanted to bring up regarding children. You know, that was a very extreme situation. Right. But the point, I think, is that just try to, as much as you may feeling all this pressure, share it with your girlfriends. Don't share it with the guy you're dating.
Exactly. It's all about timing. Okay, so your second tip is about communication. So tell us more about that.
Absolutely. I mean, if you have been dating somebody, a few times, I don't think you should wait a long time to bring up the fact that you want children. I think that's a very important part of the dating equation, relationship equation. And so the man, needs to know right up front, after, first few dates. And Suzanne, you may disagree with me, but I think they need to know right up front, being transparent, how you feel and maybe what you feel inside in terms of, your biological clock ticking. I did bring this up with my now husband. And when I mentioned it, he's a little bit older than me. And as I mentioned, I was about 39. He gave me a story that I couldn't freak out anymore. He had told me, first of all, don't worry about it. I'm stressing for nothing because I really don't know what can happen. And number two, he said he had a nutritional, a friend who was a nutritionist and a pharmacist. There are, certain vitamins you can take to help build, your level of for conception. And then the third thing he said was, and this was the sealed the deal. He was like, you have nothing to stress about. You have nothing to worry about. My sister was 48 years old when she conceived her last child.
Oh my God.
So with that said, and my niece is now 14 and she's brilliant. And,
right.
It's just like, wow. Okay. What can I say to that? What can I say to that?
Well, and I want to elaborate a little bit more about bringing this topic up to the man that you're dating. It's all about timing because it can happen, like Lori said, within the first couple of dates, or it can happen later on. It really just depends. But this is where I throw caution to the wind, is it's all about timing. So if you guys are just going out and having fun and you're dating, don't bring up such a serious topic when you're just going out and having fun, because that will freak him out. But another way I will suggest for ladies to do it is maybe to find out how he feels about kids. Maybe ask him about his family, about his siblings and how many children they have, and ask him, how do you feel about kids? Because a man will tell you how he feels about kids. Maybe he doesn't want to have kids, and maybe he doesn't see himself having kids within the next 5 to 10 years. And if he says that, then that's not the guy for you.
Right.
So Lori's absolutely right. But again, ladies, it's all about timing, so it could happen at any point in the dating process, but don't bring it up at the wrong time because it will send him running for the hills. And I have to say one more thing is that Lori's husband, her now husband, is extraordinary, and she knows I feel this way about her husband, is that he's very open, and I think he's an awesome guy. So the way he reacted is just the type of man that you want to marry. So,
very true. Very true.
So, okay, so your third tip is about freezing your eggs. So, Lori, tell us about that.
Sure. With modern medicine, modern technology nowadays, I mean, seriously, like, especially as a career woman, we have so much at our disposal in terms of, how we can help this issue of, fertility. And one way is freezing your eggs. I have friends who have done it. I know people who have done it. It kind of releases like stress that you may have about not being able to bear children or not finding the right man at, the right time. I mean, there's also women who have children without being in a relationship, right? So they choose to have babies. I do want to add something to that, and it really goes back to this whole fear. And I just want to say this to inspire. I was 39, and I conceived my child literally the first time. And I conceived my second child the first time. I tried.
Wow.
My sister just had a baby 6 months ago. She was 40. All of my friends are in their 40s and having kids or had kids. I just told you the story about my sister-in-law, 48. Okay, so what does this mean? And 3 of my friends who were going through in vitro actually ended up having kids naturally. Like, so,
that's crazy.
They thought they couldn't. They tried and tried, and then when they released all that stress and went for, IVF, they actually had kids naturally. So I'm not saying this is for everybody. Like, not everybody this happens to, but I really think stress and letting go of that can have a lot to do with it.
I agree, and I will add in my own personal story. Is my sister had 3 kids, and she had her last child at 44. So it can happen. So Lori's absolutely right. Don't freak out. And the thing is that I will tell you, ladies, because I deal with some female clients who belong to my matchmaking service that have actually frozen their eggs, and I will tell you, the ones that have frozen their eggs, I can tell a huge difference in how they approach dating, and they're so much calmer. And again, it has to be the right step for you. So it's not right for everybody. It is an expensive process, but I will tell you, if you're at the right age to do it and you can afford it, you should really, really consider it and talk to your doctor about it, because it'll take a lot of the pressure off of you, and you won't end up with the wrong guy for the wrong reason, right? Okay, Lori, these have been some awesome tips. So tell our audience how they can find you.
Absolutely. For more dating and relationship advice, please join us at www.cupidspulse.com.
Great. Thanks, Lori, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks, everybody, for joining us on the Single and Stiletto Show. If you would like to get our free report on the top 10 secrets on what attracts a man and what turns him off, you can click right here on the video, or you can go to singleandstilettos.com. If you like this show, it's available both in video format and podcast format. You can view the videos at singleandstilettos.com, or you can download the podcast from iTunes. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on the Single and Stiletto Show.